welcome to the Movies Past and Present podcast. It's December 19th, 2019, and this is episode 37. I'm your host, Stanford Clark, and I'm podcasting from the crossroads of the West in beautiful Salt Lake City, Utah. Just like my blog, moviespastandpresent.com, I'll be providing recommendations, commentary, and reviews about current and classic cinema. Thanks for tuning in, and let's do this thing. Merry Christmas and Happy Holidays, everyone. Thanks for tuning in to the podcast. We've got a lot of new movies to talk about this week in the new movie Roundup, and really this is kind of a Christmas special because, as you know, this is a big season for movies in the theater. So, new in theaters this week, we've got 3 films. First up is Bombshell, which is a drama from Lionsgate. This is that film about the women that took down Roger Ailes at Fox News. So it stars Charlize Theron, Nicole Kidman, Margot Robbie, Kate McKinnon, Connie Britton, Mark Duplass, Rob Delaney, Allison Janney, and John Lithgow. And again, it's a revealing look inside the most powerful and controversial media empire of all time, also known as Fox News, and the explosive story of the woman who brought down the infamous man, a.k.a. Roger Ailes, who created it. It's directed by Jay Roach and written by Academy Award winner Charles Randolph. Bombshell is rated R for sexual material and language throughout. Next up is Cats. So this, you've probably seen the trailer for this. I had heard of Cats. You know, Cats was one of the longest running shows, both on London's West End and Broadway in New York. It made its world premiere in London at the New London Theatre in 1981, and it played there for 21 years. It also earned the Olivier and Evening Standard Awards for Best Musical. It came across the pond to the U.S. in 1983. The Broadway production became the recipient of 7 Tony Awards, including Best Musical, and ran for 18 years. So some of the stats they're saying is that since opening in London in 1981, Cats has continuously appeared on stages around the globe, to date having played to 81 million people in more than 50 countries and in 19 languages. Clearly it's one of the most successful musicals of all time. So this film adaptation was directed by Tom Hooper, who directed The King's Speech. He also directed that musical, the film of Les Miserables, the musical. And this Andrew Lloyd Webber, the composer of Cats, is also a producer on this film. The cast is quite interesting. It stars James Corden, Judi Dench, Jason Derulo, Idris Elba, Jennifer Hutton, Ian McKellen, Taylor Swift, Rebel Wilson, and then also dancing plays a big part in this film. I guess as it did also, in the play, although I never saw the play on stage, truth be told. But this film features choreography by Andy Blankenbluer, who did the choreography for Hamilton and In the Heights on Broadway. And it reimagines the musical for a new generation, with spectacular production design, state-of-the-art technology, and dance styles ranging from classical ballet to contemporary hip-hop to jazz, and street dance to tap. They also brought in a lot of A-list dancers, including Robbie Fairchild, who, I don't know if you saw that Broadway production of An American in Paris. He starred in that, and great dancer Laurie Davidson, hip-hop dance sensation Les Twins, acclaimed dancer Matt Townley, then the Royal Ballet principal dancer Stephen McRae, and rising star singer Bluey Robinson. So lots of dancers, lots of different musicians and actors and things going on in Cats. I always thought the Broadway show of Cats looked really weird. This looks even weirder. So anyway, if that's your thing, and I might go check it out just out of pure curiosity, but Cats is rated PG for some rude and suggestive humor. Then next up is just this little indie film that you might have heard of called Star Wars: The Rise of Skywalker. This is the last film in this 9 episode series about the Skywalker family, or they're calling it the Skywalker saga. I was able to see an early screening of Star Wars: The Rise of Skywalker, and I'll be reviewing it in the podcast later today. So, like right now. But Star Wars: The Rise of Skywalker is rated PG-13 for sci-fi violence and action. While we're at it, we're just going to talk about more of these Christmas films that are opening up next week. We've got an animated comedy from Blue Sky Studios called Spies in Disguise. This features the voices of Will Smith and Tom Holland. It looks like a family comedy, but super spy Lance Sterling, who is voiced by Will Smith, and scientist Walter Beckett, who is voiced by Tom Holland, are almost exact opposites. Lance is smooth and suave and debonair. Walter is, well, not. But when events take an unexpected turn, this unlikely duo are forced to team up for the ultimate mission that will require an almost impossible disguise, transforming super spy Lance into the brave, fierce, majestic Pigeon. Walter and Lance suddenly have to work as a team, or the whole world is in peril. So yeah, that's Spies in Disguise. Let's hope it's good. I don't know. Blue Sky Studios, they can do some nice work. And the animation looks fun, but the story looks like it's kind of a groaner. But anyway, we'll see. Also opening up in limited release on Christmas Day, and then wide release on January 10th. So it probably means that I won't get to see it until January. But it's 1917, which is a World War I epic from Universal Pictures, directed by Sam Mendes. He's bringing his singular vision to this major war film. In summary, at the height of the First World War, 2 young British soldiers are given a seemingly impossible mission. In a race against time, they must cross enemy territory and deliver a message that will stop a deadly attack on hundreds of soldiers. And one of them is the brother of one of these, the 2 young British soldiers that are given this mission. So it looks really, really compelling. I think it's got great buzz. So anyway, looking forward to seeing 1917. It's rated R for violence, some disturbing images, and language. Also opening up on Christmas is another adaptation of the beloved novel Little Women. As you know, Little Women was written by Louisa May Alcott and has had many film adaptations. This particular one was adapted and directed, an adapted screenplay, and then directed by Greta Gerwig. And she's crafted a Little Woman that draws on both the classic novel and the writings of Louisa May Alcott, and unfolds as the author's alter ego, Jo March, reflects back and forth on her fictional life. In Gerwig's take, the beloved story of the March sisters, 4 young women, each determined to live life on her own terms, is both timeless and timely. So portraying Jo, Meg, Amy, and Beth March in the film are Saoirse Ronan, Emma Watson, Florence Pugh, Eliza Scanlon, Timothy Chalamet. I'm sorry, Timothy, I'm messing up your name. As their neighbor Laurie, Laura Dern as Marmee, and then Meryl Streep as Aunt March. So, Little Women, rated PG, for thematic elements and brief smoking. All right, then last up for new films next week is Uncut Gems, which is a crime thriller from A24. And this is from acclaimed filmmakers Josh and Benny Safdie. And it stars Adam Sandler, and it's been getting really good reviews. So go figure. But Adam Sandler plays a guy named Howard Ratner, who is a charismatic New York City jeweler, always on the lookout for the next big score. When he makes a series of high-stakes bets that could lead to the windfall of a lifetime, Howard must perform a precarious high-wire act, balancing business, family, and encroaching adversaries on all sides in his relentless pursuit of the ultimate win. Uncut Gems is rated R for pervasive strong language, violence, some sexual content, and brief drug use. So, again, as a quick recap, new in theaters, we've got Bombshell, Cats, Star Wars The Rise of Skywalker, and then opening next week for Christmas, Spies in Disguise, 1917, Little Women, Uncut Gems, and then also just as a little add-on, there's lots of great movies still in theaters for this holiday season that I'd highly recommend. Frozen 2 from Walt Disney Animation Studios is terrific. Ford versus Ferrari, see that on the biggest screen possible. That's really great. Knives Out is a really fun murder mystery that I think you'll enjoy. And then also saw A Beautiful Day in the Neighborhood, and that's really just kind of a perfect movie. So would highly recommend those as well. So lots to see and lots to enjoy this Christmas season with your friends and family at the movie theater. All right, well, for reviews this week, we've got a little film to review called Star Wars: The Rise of Skywalker. I'm a big Star Wars fan. You know, the original film came out when I was a little kid. I remember talking about it on the playground with my friends. I remember my mom and dad taking me to see it in the movie theater, and it was really something special and something, that's just made a lasting impact. It's been so fun to have more Star Wars films coming out with some regularity, and that part's been fun. I can't say that I've really enjoyed a lot of the divisiveness that it's caused, particularly with quote unquote fans on the internet and all the uproar and all the stuff over things. But what can you do? People are passionate about it, and that in and of itself is fun, but it also is kind of frustrating. In preparation of seeing Star Wars: The Rise of Skywalker, they've been touting this film as the last film in this quote-unquote Skywalker saga, which started with the very first Star Wars film in 1977, of course, about Luke Skywalker, who's played by Mark Hamill. And as things progress, we learn that Luke is actually the son of Darth Vader, who originally was named Anakin Skywalker. Luke also has a twin. It happens to be Princess Leia. Spoiler alert. But anyway, this Skywalker saga, it spawned off the first three films, episodes 4, 5, and 6 as they're known. And then a prequel trilogy was made a few years after that the Star Wars creator George Lucas made, known as episodes 1, 2, and 3, which really talk about how Darth Vader, or I guess really how Anakin Skywalker became Darth Vader. And then we've got finally episodes 7, 8, 9, that the episode 7 came out in 2015. And then in 2017 we had episode 8. And now here we've got episode 9, Star Wars: The Rise of Skywalker. So I actually had a lot of fun. In 2015, before episode 7 came out, with some friends we watched the 6 Star Wars films. And actually that was really fun. Even though I really am not a big fan of those prequel films. I think that they're hard to watch, particularly the first 2. But I decided to do the same thing again. With this one, I watched all the prequel films. I watched them in episodic order. You know, there's all sorts of different ways and different theories that people talk about the order that you should watch these Star Wars movies in. I ended up doing them in episodic order because I really don't care for the prequels, and I just wanted to watch them first and get them out of the way. But one thing that I did, I've got them on Blu-ray disc, and the Blu-rays that I have a really great director and filmmaker commentary track that you can watch over, and that really helped me get through them. Because again, I don't really enjoy them. But I watched episodes 1 through 3, and then I watched the original trilogy, which I love. My favorite Star Wars film is still Episode 5, The Empire Strikes Back. And then I watched Episode 7 and 8 again, and actually I really enjoyed watching them both. You know, Episode 8, this is The Last Jedi, which came out in 2017, has really divided, I think, the Star Wars fandom. I think there was a lot of unhappiness with how the character of Luke Skywalker was treated in that one, and just its overall tone, and also how, you know, Princess Leia, or General Leia, spends most of the film in a coma. And then, you know, it turns out that Carrie Fisher died not too long after the production had wrapped on the film. And so all sorts of complaints about everything. But I actually really enjoyed the film, and I think it's really well made and very good. So anyway, I was really excited. I've been really excited for this last Star Wars film. It's directed by, Star Wars: The Rise of Skywalker is directed by J.J. Abrams, who also directed Episode 7, you know, Star Wars: The Force Awakens, and Star Wars: The Force Awakens had a lot of complaints about how it really just felt like a remake of the original Star Wars, you know, Star Wars Episode 4, A New Hope. And I gotta tell you, I think Star Wars: The Rise of Skywalker is really kind of a remake of Episode 6, Return of the Jedi. It has a lot of the same feel to it, and I don't necessarily say that as a complaint. Overall, I had a blast watching this new Star Wars film. It's technically it's amazing. I have some issues with the story, and I won't go into a lot of detail because I want to keep this mostly spoiler free. But it's not a perfect film, but it's a fun film. So to recap, the big thing, and this has all been revealed in the trailers, but the evil Emperor Palpatine is back. Here we thought that he was dead. Darth Vader threw him down a chute, to save his son at the end of Return of the Jedi / Episode 6. But he's back, and I think that was actually a pretty interesting choice, because that helps with the whole saga, because he really is the big bad guy in the first 6 films. For both the original trilogy and the sequel trilogy, he's really the source of all evil. And so it makes sense that he comes back, and they have to kind of fight. Our new heroes have to fight this really horrific and really major bad guy. So all the characters that we've gotten introduced to are back from these this sequel trilogy, again, Episode 7 and Episode 8. So the main character, of course, is Rey, who was played by Daisy Ridley. Rey is a young woman abandoned by her parents on a desert planet, and she's sensitive to the Force, but she doesn't really, of course, she doesn't really know it until the film starts rolling. Finn is back. Finn is a former stormtrooper who abandoned that. And was able to escape it. He's played by the actor John Boyega. Then we've got a hotshot pilot named Poe Dameron. So those are kind of the three main characters that have been introduced in this new sequel trilogy. And what's fun about this new film is that they get to spend a lot of the film together, and there's some nice chemistry, and they go off on a big adventure really to try to find out what's going on with Emperor Palpatine. But all the great other characters are back: Chewbacca and C-3PO and R2-D2, and all the ones. Well, and then of course, it's interesting if you look on the poster. The main poster for this film, the two actors that get the top billing are Carrie Fisher and Mark Hamill. And Carrie Fisher, of course, died at the end of the filming of episode 8. But it turns out that J.J. Abrams, who directed episode 7, there were some scenes that they filmed with Carrie Fisher, again as General Leia, which were cut. And they didn't make the final film. And so J.J., along with the other screenwriter, Chris Terrio, they were able to figure out a way to use these scenes and integrate them into this new film. And I thought that they did great. In fact, it was kind of amazing. I mean, you could tell that Carrie had been digitally put into inserted into some of these scenes, but still, to have her presence in the film was really a smart decision and an important one. Mark Hamill's in it, and I won't gonna talk a lot about it, spoil it, but he's definitely in the movie, and it's that part is great. Really, the most interesting relationship in the film, of course, is between Rey and then Kylo Ren, which is the name of Ben Solo, who is the son of Princess Leia and Han Solo. And he is played by Adam Driver. And, as we know from the other two films, he's conflicted. I mean, he's the bad guy. He's really embracing his grandfather's, Darth Vader's, kind of legacy of evil. But the kid's conflicted. And so, but also he's got a really strong connection through the Force with Rey. And so there's a lot that dynamic, which was explored in a very interesting way in The Last Jedi, really comes to play in this film. And it's really the most interesting, clearly, relationship in the film, and of course very key to the plot. So that part I really liked. Overall, I think the film just felt like a big classic movie adventure, like a great, like Captain Blood or some other classic film. Just and then also just Star Wars, particularly the original one from '77, and then the Return of the Jedi. As I mentioned, that it really has some parallels with, and I'm sure that's intentional. But that, I think, its strength is that the action is relentless and it's nonstop, and that makes it really fun. Now, I think where this film is probably going to get a lot of criticism. I looked, I checked this morning. It's rotten on Rotten Tomatoes. I think it only has a 58% critic score on Rotten Tomatoes, and that is what it is, and I think that people sounds just from some of the reviews that I read, they're feeling it's either derivative or not original enough. I think that these filmmakers were given an absolutely impossible task. How do you wrap up these, this 9-film series in a way that's going to satisfy everybody? You can't. So, and I don't really like some of the story decisions that they made either. But they made them, and they give answers to some of these questions, that have been raised about these films, particularly, episode 7 and episode 8. And so I was satisfied at least they gave answers. Not so much that I was particularly satisfied with the answers, but I'm so glad that at least they gave an answer. And though, again, not to nitpick, but the point, I don't think that the folks at Lucasfilm really, I'm not convinced that they had a really strong vision about the story of how they wanted this trilogy to be, this 3-act trilogy. I mean, it followed some of the classic elements of it, but the way some of this stuff came together, it just seemed like maybe they're like, oh, maybe we should do it this way, and rather than something that was really well thought out. But I got to tell you, that was their job and not mine. My job is just to be able to go and enjoy this movie, be grateful that there's another Star Wars movie, and go have some fun. The ending of this film series is bittersweet for me. I've really, I've loved, I love these Star Wars movies, even with all their flaws. It's a film series that I just really love. I'm excited to see what they've got in store for us. I mean, clearly, maybe they're still winging it there at Lucasfilm, but I think they've got some sort of a plan. The next film is scheduled to come out in 2022, so there's going to be a bit of a break in films. Lucasfilm was putting a lot of content, it looks like, they're planning for on the Disney Plus subscription service. Currently, there is a Star Wars series on Disney Plus called The Mandalorian, and if you're not watching it, you absolutely should, because it's terrific. And so I'm just excited to see what kind of stories and adventures they're going to be doing within the Star Wars galaxy, both on TV and on the big screen. And I'm really hopeful. I'm really hopeful that Star Wars storytelling is going to continue in a good way, and that these movies are going to be fun. So go see The Rise of Skywalker. Go on your own terms, and hopefully just go have some fun. Go have some fun, and don't necessarily expect to get the meaning of life from it. But I think it stays true to the tone of the series. And I ultimately found it really, really satisfying, and just a fun, old-fashioned adventure. In Classic Cinema Corner this week, we've got some great announcements from Turner Classic Movies. TCM does this great big screen classic series every year, and thankfully they're continuing it in 2020. They show one classic film on the big screen, big screens across the U.S. So I'll put a link to it in the podcast notes, but you go to fathomevents.com/TCM. And they've got the 2020 schedule. You can plug your zip code in, and then you can find hopefully a theater near you that's going to be showing these great films. Now they've got a current lineup set up, which I'm going to go over, and occasionally they add a film or two to this. It seems to happen these last few years. They've added something. Other than what was already, that already gets announced kind of at the end of the year. But here's the current lineup, and the films are really interesting, very eclectic. So first up in January is the classic American in Paris, which of course stars Gene Kelly and Leslie Caron, directed by the great Vincent Minnelli. It is going to be playing in theaters on January 19th and January 22nd. And again, all the stuff's on the website, of course. But I've never been a huge fan of An American in Paris. I had, up until a couple of years ago, I had only seen it on TV. But a local theater chain here in Salt Lake City showed it on the big screen as part of a kind of a classic movie revival thing, and it was a revelation to see this film on the big screen. It was so beautiful, and to be able to see just the dancing and the choreography and the amazing sets and everything that were created for this film, I just absolutely loved it. So highly recommended American in Paris. Next up is Love Story, which is playing February 9th and February 12th for Valentine's Day. It's the 50th anniversary of this film. As you know, this one's the one with Ryan O'Neal and with Ally McGraw. Ryan O'Neal plays a Harvard law student, and then Ally McGraw plays a music student, and they share chemistry they cannot deny, a love they cannot ignore, and despite their opposite backgrounds, the young couple put their hearts on the line for each other. It's one of those that's a real ball fest, as I recall, and that actually should be fun for Valentine's Day. So Love Story in February. Then also in February is the showing The Color Purple, which is directed by Steven Spielberg, starring Whoopi Goldberg and Danny Glover and Oprah Winfrey. And then that's an adaptation of Alice Walker's Pulitzer Prize winning novel. That should be good. So on March 15th, there's going to be King Kong, which I'm super excited to see. Again, I've only seen that on TV. So it's the classic King Kong with Fay Wray, and anyway, I'm excited. In April, we've got just as the start of baseball season. TCM is going to be screening the great comedy A League of Their Own, that stars Gina Davis, Tom Hanks, Lori Petty, and Madonna, and it's about the female baseball league that happened during World War II, and that's just a great film. I'm excited to see that one again on the big screen. May's entry is the 40th anniversary of the great comedy spoof Airplane, which is really one of my favorite comedies, starring Robert Hayes and Julie Haggerty. The AFI, the American Film Institute, has put this as one of their 10 funniest movies ever made, and I would concur. It's just riotous fun. So Airplane is going to be in May. Coming up in June this is an interesting choice. It's the film adaptation of Annie. So Annie, as in Little Orphan Annie, is a huge hit on Broadway. I think kind of a rite of passage for every young girl who's got to play either Annie or one of the orphans. This film adaptation was directed by the great John Huston, and the cast is amazing. It's got Carol Burnett, Bernadette Peters, Albert Finney. I remember just not liking this film very much, but I'm going to give it another shot. It's coming in June on the big screen. Also in June, I guess it plays June 28th and then on July 1st, but it's The Blues Brothers. So really excited about that one. That's, of course, with John Belushi and Dan Aykroyd. And then also in July is the 30th anniversary screening of Ghost. This is, of course, the romantic drama with Patrick Swayze and Demi Moore. And anyway, another one of those, like, okay, I guess we'll go see it at the 30th anniversary. Then we've got the 25th anniversary of the family comedy Babe. And Babe's about that little about the little pig who doesn't quite know his place in the world, but that's a super cute film, and again, an interesting eclectic choice. For September, they're going to be screening Steven Spielberg's Close Encounters of the Third Kind. That's going to be cool to see on the big screen. October, they typically this series always find some kind of a scary classic film to show, and this year's no exception. In October, they're going to be screening Alfred Hitchcock's Psycho, which I think is probably one. I'm such a horror movie wuss, but I have seen Psycho, and it just scared me to death. So That's Janet Leigh, visits the Bates Motel and falls prey to one of cinema's most notorious psychopaths, Norman Bates, played by Anthony Perkins. So super scary, but perfect for Halloween. In November, it's One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, with Jack Nicholson, and this one is celebrating its 45th anniversary. And then in December, the last film on the list is the film adaptation of Fiddler on the Roof, which is directed by Norman Jewison and stars Topol. It's this musical is a brilliant adaptation of that very popular stage play, and just a beautiful film. So I've seen this. I've seen Fiddler on the Roof on the big screen before. They screened it at the Turner Classic Film Festival. I'm very excited to see it again because I just think it's excellent. So again, all these films are listed out on the fathomevents.com/TCM website. I'll have links to it on the podcast notes, but save the date for these films because this is always a treat to see classic cinema on the big screen. Well, that does it for this episode of the Movies Past and Present podcast. Again, links and more information about all of the movies discussed in today's podcast can be found in the podcast notes on my blog at moviespastandpresent.com. As always, I hope you will enjoy some good movies this week, whether they be from the past or the present. Happy holidays, Merry Christmas, everybody, and until next time, thanks for listening, and we'll see you at the movies.
Bye.